And so it begins our second annual 31 Days of Horror celebration here at This May or May Not Be Satire. And, last year we kind of went through the motions, we tried it out. It was an entirely new thing, and I think there's a lot of things we could have improved upon last year, which we did this time around, put a lot of work into it. And I think we got a pretty good set list this year. The premise is very simple. I basically review a horror film every single day, and really, the thing that makes us different than most is that we're covering the entire spectrum of the horror film. I mean, we're going back to 1914 today. So we're going like 102 years ago, beginning the silent era, and then working our way, all the way up until 2016. And along the way, we'll hit upon just about every genre you can think of, films from all over the world, just giving you the broadest portrait of what makes horror cinema horror cinema. And as I was alluding to earlier, we're going to begin our whirlwind countdown of the film from 1914. Now, it's not technically the first horror film. That's really debatable. I think it's definitely one of the first feature-length horror films, though. And really, at the time this movie came out, the idea of narrative filmmaking was still kind of a novel idea. I mean, they were still kind of working their way through that. And obviously, no one is really as significant and influential on silent era filmmaking as D.W. Griffith. And this is actually a film he made right before he did Birth of a Nation. So it's a very important film, not only in his chronology, but also in the chronology of filmmaking. So anyway, The Avenging Conscience, basically what this movie is, it's pretty interesting in the sense that it's an adaptation of not one, but actually two different Edgar Allan Poe stories. Obviously, it's a combination of The Telltale Heart, but also merges in elements of Annabelle Lee. So it's not sort of a split, it actually merges both of the narratives together, and it comes off as actually a pretty interesting little movie. And a lot of the things that you're seeing here, remember, this was way, way before horror was an established genre. I mean, this is a point in time when really films themselves, were still kind of considered like a circus novelty. So the idea of them representing, full-fledged narrative stories was still sort of a new idea. So, I mean, to begin with, obviously, if you're a person who grew up, and you've never seen a film made before 1988, you're going to look at this and just think it's absolutely archaic and there's no point to it, and it's just so goofy and all the expressions are exaggerated. But I'm the kind of guy where I love silent movies. I watch stuff like this all the time. It's very relaxing. And this is a great, great movie. I mean, I don't think it's the best film by D.W. Griffith, and I'm certainly sure that there are better silent horror films out there. But yeah, just for what it's worth, this is a great, 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 great little film that holds up incredibly well for something that came out 102 years ago. So yeah, basically getting back to it, it is a combination of two Edgar Allan Poe stories. So basically it's about this guy, and he's hanging out with his uncle, and his uncle is his benefactor, or something along those lines. And he wants to go out and date this young woman, but the uncle says, no, 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 you gotta do stuff for me. And of course, the young dude in love finally just goes bat doo doo insane and ends up killing his uncle. It happens sometimes. And of course, he kills him and buries him, in the basement, puts him in a wall. And he goes out and he's enjoying life with his new gal pal. But of course, this being a horror film, really one of the early pioneers of psychological thrillers, of course, eventually, his conscience, the avenging conscience, lived in the title, starts kind of catching up with him. And the guilt becomes overpowering, and then he starts having hallucinations, and like the smallest things just trigger him. And then eventually, and this is where the horror element comes in, that's when his uncle's ghost rises up and starts tormenting him. And the special effects are how they do it. I mean, it's amazing because this stuff is like still industry standard, where like they have kind of like the fade out and they layer it over the film. I mean, to give you an idea of how good of an effect it is, I mean, they're doing it 102 years ago, and it's still being used as a technical effect today. So yeah, the special effects, shockingly, astonishingly, are not bad in the movie. But like I was saying earlier, the film, it's all about the acting, it's about the atmosphere, Yeah, everything is a little exaggerated, but it has to be because obviously you don't have the dialogue component. But it is a very, very good film. Has a great pace. Uh, the main guy, he's got really great facial expressions. It's just an overall incredibly enjoyable film. Now, the ending, give or take, because it has sort of a twist ending, and I don't want to give it away, but you'll probably hate it. It's kind of cheesy, kind of corny. But, just for what it is, I mean, for it being, one of the very first true feature length Hollywood horror narratives, this thing is outstanding. I mean, it's a great story, great atmospheric, great ambiance, great special effects, very, very well done acting, great set design. This is great. I mean, there's a lot of really, vaunted and ballyhooed silent horror films that you go back and watch today, and outside of the fact that you're supposed to really like them, you just kind of watch them like, man, I'm just not into it. This will keep you motivated. It will keep you captivated and reeled in, which is something you can't say about not only a lot of silent films, but even a lot of movies today. So yeah, this one I'm a big, big fan of. A great way to sort of start off our 31 Days of Horror 2016 countdown. And as you'll see, this movie kind of like laid out a template of sort for the pioneering horror films to work. I mean, it really wasn't until we got into the heyday of the Universal monster movies where the horror genre shifted away from being, true crime and, having a guilty conscience and, all these like plans to murder and exploit people and kind of playing out like morality plays. I mean, that's pretty much what horror was, as you'll soon see over the next couple of days, up until, Frankenstein and Dracula came out. So lots of interesting stuff coming up, and this is more or less the template. So yeah, like I said, it's great. You need to catch it. If we're going to do the rating for it, I'm going to give this one 3.5 Ghost Reese's Cups out of 4. So it's very, very, very good. If you never went out and seen it, you probably should. It's on the YouTube. I believe it's in public domain. And it's a great way to start the Halloween season. Check it out.